Are you ready for a big month of lessons, shifts and changes? Well, you picked the right month because July is jam-packed full of different retrogrades. In fact, more than I'm going to go through today, but today I'm going to go through all the major ones and that will keep you busy enough. However, there will be some other subtle changes that if you subscribe to my newsletter at adambarralet.com or follow me on Facebook or Instagram, I will bring in some of them throughout the month as well. So, what can we expect in July 2025? Well, we're off to a flying start with two powerful feminine retrogrades happening on the 2nd of July. Now, the first one is Lilith. The first one, I should say, is Lilith. Lilith, of course, is a mythological figure or biblical figure who was the very first wife of Adam prior to Eve. Now she, unlike Eve being taken from the rib of Adam or made from man, she was made from the earth and the oceans and put together, and because she refused to lay under Adam, she kind of represents that empowered woman, that woman who just refuses to be dictated to how things should be. It is believed that maybe Lilith was the first one who discovered astrology because she worked out by watching the stars she could tell what was going to happen, and this also displeased that god. And so she is basically represents this really powerful kind of woman, independent woman, I guess you would say. Now, the really beautiful thing about Lilith is that there are different aspects in astrology. There's the dark moon Lilith, but there is also an asteroid. It's number 1181, and that is going into retrograde on the 2nd. What's going to happen then? Well, because she normally helps us to be unrepressed and uninhibited and no one can hold us back, she takes that energy away when she goes into retrograde. And so you may start to realize where you are being held back, where you are being repressed. Now, sometimes we're being repressed because other people are repressing us or suppressing us. But in other cases, we're actually allowing ourselves to be repressed. And it can be our own thought forms that make us kind of go, oh, well, I can't do that because I'm a fill in the blank kind of thing. So this is a really great time to look at where you're being held back and how you can break free from that. A crystal I love to work with when I work with Lilith is Covellite. This beautiful blue metallic crystal really helps us to do a lot of shadow work and work out, well, hold on, what parts of myself am I hiding? Am I hiding them because they've been told to me in the past that they're not acceptable, they're not appropriate, and how can I bring them out? We can also combine that with Star Anise. Now, Star Anise really helps with the third eye chakra. It helps us to think for ourselves rather than be dictated to. And this is really a strong lesson that will come up around Lilith retrograde. Now, on the same day, we also have the asteroid of Persephone going into retrograde. If you don't know the story or the myth of Persephone, it's definitely worth looking up to understand this retrograde a little bit more. But in short, imagine a beautiful young maiden and a goddess here on Earth getting abducted by Pluto or Hades, the god of the underworld. Now, she didn't remain just an innocent little maiden. She actually became the queen of the underworld and quite empowered. And her journey between the underworld and Earth that she takes every 6 months actually dictates the seasons on our planet. Now, Persephone, what she means in astrology is she signifies where we may feel out of sorts or out of home or even abandoned, like mum and dad aren't around to help me out anymore, and how we can actually use those times when we are out on a limb and all alone to grow and become fully empowered, rather than looking at where we are in relationships where we're being held back because other people are doing things for us. It's kind of this play between dependence and independence. And so these kind of lessons may come up around the 2nd of July as well. To really help you to tap into this power, reach for an obsidian, especially Snowflak obsidian can be really great. Now, Persephone, although she's empowered, she still has this beauty and this grace, and she has connections to the spring as well as to the underworld. So this light and dark kind of play. And you can obviously see why Snowflak obsidian would be so great for that, bringing that gentleness into the power as well. I also like to work with Myrrh at this time, because Myrrh has this connection to death, but it also is about healing and it's about strength as well. So how can you kind of dance this dance between being dependent on other people and allowing other people to help you, but also not being too dependent that you don't grow fully and be a fully realized human who can stand on their own 2 feet all by themselves. So those two will be happening simultaneously on the 2nd of July. Remember that a retrograde doesn't just turn on for a day and then turn off. They all happen as waves. And so some of the things I'm talking about may resonate with you and some may not. Stick with the ones or the lessons that seem to be coming up for you and work with those crystals and oils and do a bit more reading to get a bit more of an understanding of them. Now, our major retrograde happens on the 5th of July. We have a planetary retrograde of Neptune. Now, Neptune, of course, is considered to be the higher octave of Venus, and we know Venus is all about love and beauty. Neptune is more about aesthetics. It's about the arts, photography, performing, song, theatre, all those different things. Basically, Neptune inspires us, and you know when you kind of hear a song or see a show and you're like, it just makes the heart flutter, and it really makes you see how beautiful life is. That's what Neptune's all about. But Neptune's going to go into retrograde. So those beautiful rose-coloured glasses that Neptune puts on come off. And suddenly the world starts to look a little bit harsher. If you're a Pisces, this can be a bit of a rough time especially. But for all of us, what happens is we get a bit of a reality check. What is the lesson here with Neptune retrograde? Well, what Neptune actually wants us to do is not to kid ourselves that, yeah, okay, my partner's okay or my job's okay. Neptune actually wants us to create a truly beautiful life. And anywhere where you've kind of been letting things go or, you know, letting people get away with things that they maybe shouldn't or being treated badly and or disrespectfully, that'll start to like really rear its ugly head and you'll start to kind of butt up against that. And other people will as well. So if you are in the wrong relationship, in the wrong job, in the wrong situation, on the wrong path, Neptune will show you the ugly side of that to try and actually get you into the right path, into a truly beautiful life. At this time, if you need a bit of cleansing and balancing, Aquamarine can be really good to harmonize with that Neptunian energy. And if you do need just a little dose of beauty from time to time, reach for your Celestite. A really beautiful essential oil to reach for at this time is Rosalina. Rosalina, it's cleansing, so it helps to clear away different things that are kind of, you know, that need to be let go of and no longer in our lives, but also allows us to tap into that third eye chakra to really look at the truth and the reality of how things are at this time and to be a bit more adaptable and not be fixed of, no, this is the path or the person or the way I'm meant to go. So really, really helpful in that way. Now, on the 11th, we then have our full moon. This month, our full moon is in a sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is all about success. It's about your legacy. It's about your career. It's about what the world will say about you once you're gone and that lasting impression. It's also just how you make your income as well. So what we do here is we make resolutions and we do healings and magical workings about making a difference in the world. Maybe you want a promotion. Maybe you want a job promotion. Or a promotion in another aspect of your life. Maybe you just want to work on a charity a little bit more. Whatever that thing is about as yourself as a public figure. Now, we may not all be famous, but what you do to the outside world and promoting and growing in that realm, that's what Capricorn's all about. This is a really great time to grab your Natrolite. Now, Natrolite is a really great, vibrant crystal. It's got a bit of a springtime energy, maybe not the most seasonally apparent, I can't get my words, not the most seasonally relevant crystal right now, but it is really good for working with Capricorn because it kind of helps people who have a lot that they want to get done. It gives you a lot of vitality and a lot of energy to keep you on path. Now, to keep you on path as well, working with Hinoki essential oil, which is a cypress. Very zen, very calming, so it keeps you very focused. But because the tree grows very upright and is very strong, in fact, it's renowned in Japan, where it's native to, of being used for spiritual monuments and buildings like pagodas and so on, because of its straightforwardness and its strength. And that's exactly what we want when it comes to our career and our Capricorn pursuits of being direct, clear, and unshakable. So working with Hinoki, which still has a peaceful energy at that full moon, but that direct energy as well, with your Natrolite can be really, really powerful. We have another major planet going into retrograde a couple of days later on the 13th. This is Saturn. Now, Saturn is kind of like our daddy. He's a disciplinarian, and in traditional astrology, he's known as being about restriction. But I really like to think about Saturn helps us to parent ourselves and make sure that we don't run off course. So when he disappears and goes in retrograde, what happens is our lack of self-discipline comes out. Now, does that mean that you're less hard on yourself? Well, you know, when we make our children eat their vegetables, is it because we don't like them and we want to punish them? Or is it because we know it's good for them? Well, sometimes we need to do that for ourselves as well. And any holes in where you're letting yourself maybe eat a bit too much chocolate or kind of sit too long on the couch or have too much screen time, this is where this will become really apparent, and you can use this Saturn retrograde to get yourself more disciplined. This is a really great time to actually allow your inner parent to come out, or the person, your 2030 version of yourself. So the version you want to be in 5 years' time, get them to dictate and make decisions for you. What would the person in 5 years from now want you to have for dinner tonight? What would the person from 5 years from now want you to do on this weekend? All those types of things, and get that discipline right. Bring in some really kind of strict and powerful tools from nature here. Pietersite, the stone of the storm, the stone of lightning, really powerful, really good at helping you to keep you focused. And if you combine that with Basil, that helps to put a scorpion in the mind, really helps you to focus on what's important and not get distracted so often. These two are my favorite for exhaustion, because when we're exhausted, especially with things like adrenal fatigue, we're trying to do everything. We're scattering our attention and our energy, too far, and this is why we need to use Basil and Pietersite to narrow and kind of be very focused on where we're actually heading. After that, on the 14th, Salacia. Now, Salacia is one of the dwarf planets. You may have heard me talk a little bit more about these dwarf planets. Out there floating around beyond Neptune with Pluto, they are all different, helping us to connect with the higher realms of ourselves. And if you are quite a spiritual person, the dwarf planets are really worth looking into. Salacia connects us to our sensuality. And it's amazing in this world how much we have to keep our sexuality and our sensuality and the joy and the pleasure and the connection that comes through sex actually kind of withheld and hidden. Salacia really helps us to celebrate that. She's one of the wives in some stories of Neptune. She's kind of very much mermaid energy. So think about mermaid energy, sensual, seduction, all that energy comes out and flows. And so when she goes into retrograde, we start to realize where our sexuality, our sensuality is being inhibited, and where maybe we need to find other outlets in order to express this in a really healthy way for ourselves and those we're in relationship with. This is a really great time to grab your peach moonstone. Peach moonstone works with that sacral chakra, which is really beautiful for that kind of sacral chakra, pleasure, sexual organs, all that type of thing, but in a real gentle kind of magical way. So work with that, and even combine that with a bit of Larimar would be really beautiful with Salacia. Red Champaca, or any of the Champaca essential oils, again, very, very seductive, very, very magnetic, allows you to connect back with that Salacia energy. Okay. On the 18th of, I told you there's a lot. On the 18th of July, Mercury is going into retrograde. Of course, we're going to have communication challenges here. We're going to learn how to become a better communicator. Now, this Mercury retrograde is in the sign of Leo. Now, Leos are beautiful at speaking from the heart, and they're beautiful, very confident speakers. So what happens when we have a bit of a retrograde here? Sometimes you can be a bit over-talky. So this is the retrograde where we learn what happens when we don't listen. And there can be a bit of anger or fireness in our communication as well. So this retrograde is a time to grab your Angelite. Calm the farm down, and Angelite is my favorite crystal to encourage people to listen a little bit more. And this is going to be really, really important during this time. With that as well, I would encourage maybe a bit of Litsea essential oil. Litsea or Mei Chang essential oil really helps us to bring a bit of playfulness, which is what the good aspect of Leo in there, and not to get too aggressive in the way that we talk to other people. Otherwise, there could be some pretty fiery fights during this Mercury retrograde. The 22nd, Eris is going into retrograde. Eris is another one of those dwarf planets. She is kind of a bit of a rebel as well, kind of like the Lilith and almost the Persephone energy as well. So there's a lot of rebel and independent women energy floating around in July. You see, Eris has to decide between being loyal to oneself and being who you truly are and fitting in. And there'll be this play here about, do I do I just kind of toe the line just so everyone likes me? Or do I actually stand up for what I actually believe in and shake the boat totally, type of thing? And these kind of challenges will come up around that time, helping you to find that balance. If you do find that you do need to kind of find that power where you actually are loyal to yourself instead of betraying yourself just to fit in, then work with Tektite. Tektite, of course, not a crystal, but gifted to us from the stars, is really powerful at helping you to harness your inner power and shake things up at that point in time as well. Combine that with good old Oregano essential oil. Oregano really helps us to think and to think in different ways. It's been used in the past magically to break apart regimes and different things where there was kind of everyone was thinking the same way. So it was really beautiful during Eris retrograde. Now on the 25th, we have our new moon in Leo. Leo, as we said before, is all about fun, leisure and pleasure. So this is where we start to think about, okay, how can I bring some more pleasure into my life? This can be a really great time to work with things like black opals, can be quite playful around this time. And I also really like good old green mandarin. Green mandarin has that citrus energy. When we inhale it in, we release more serotonin. It makes us happier. And because it's a young, unripe fruit, it really works well with the new moon energy. Finally, on the 30th of July, told you there's a lot, and we're going to go out with a bang too. Chiron retrograde. Now, Chiron is known as a centaur, both in mythology and in astrology. It's a astrological body that works kind of like a comet, kind of like an asteroid. But when astrologers first discovered Chiron, they started to realize how important it was in astrology. You see, Chiron for us represents what is our childhood wound, and something that happens to us when we're young that seems to keep on coming back and tripping us up like an Achilles heel throughout our lives, until we realize that that wound that always hurts us actually is a strength and allows us to heal both ourselves and other people. That's a really quick synopsis of a really complex astrology. Make sure you are a subscriber to my newsletter so you can read the full gamut and really get to understand that as we go on. I might do a full kind of massive one when that comes up. Quantum Quattro, the best emotional healer on Crystal Confab. We're talking about this in a couple of weeks, so make sure you check that episode out. It is 5 different crystals all growing together. And then put it with yarrow. Yarrow is good for letting go of things we've been holding on to and bringing out new power as well. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I had a little post-it note that was just below me that I was reading off to make sure I remember everything, and the wind just carried it over there. So let's see if I can do it off the top of my head. On the 2nd of July, we have 2 retrogrades. First of all, we have Lilith retrograde, when we are going to feel rather oppressed and we want to get our Covellite and our star Anise. We also have Persephone retrograde happening on the 2nd as well. She is all about that dance between dependence and independence, and this is when we're going to need our Myrrh essential oil and our Snowflak Obsidian. On the 5th, we have Neptune retrograde, and that is very much about, reality check time and not making things beautiful when they're really not. Grab your Aquamarine, grab your Celestite, and grab your Rosalina. Next, I think it was the 10th, around the 10th is our full moon in Capricorn. Grab your Natrolite to help you, give you that zest to want to do more in life and contribute more to the greater world. And then grab your Hinoki to keep you focused on what you need as well. After that, I think we've got it on the 11th. I will put the dates in the description below. We've got Saturn going into retrograde. Grab your Basil, grab your Pietersite, and get a bit more disciplined with yourself. Awaken your inner parent at this time and realize where you're kind of being a bit slack and letting time slip away. Remember, Saturn does also rule time, and we have limited time, guys, so make the most of it as well. We then have our Salacia going into retrograde. That is on the 14th of July. This is when you're going to see where your sexuality and your sensuality is not being truly expressed. You really want to get into your inner mermaid around this time. Larimar, Peach, Moonstone, and Champaca would be beautiful to work with around this time. We then have... let me grab that note. I was doing so well, wasn't I? Okay. Mercury retrograde, 15th. Mercury retrograde in Leo. Make sure that we are that we are listening to other people. Shut up around that time. One of my favorite sayings is only speak if what you have to say is more beautiful than silence. Really appreciate the silence during the Mercury and Leo. Grab your Angelite, keep it close and really listen. Angelite helps us not only listen to other people, but it lets us hear what Spirit is trying to tell us as well. Also grab your Litsea to be a bit more playful and not to take things too seriously, so you don't get into any big kind of yelling matches. With Eris going into retrograde, you're going to have to work out, what do I do to fit in, and what do I do to be loyal to myself and kind of shake or rock the boat a little bit. Grab Tektite, grab Oregano essential oil, and they will help you navigate through this time. On the 25th, we have our new moon in Leo. This is a great time with black opal and green mandarin. How can you bring more leisure, pleasure, and play into your life? You can get it and definitely need it with all these lessons coming up in this retrograde. And then finally on the 30th, Chiron in retrograde. It's time to realize that what happened to you in your past made you the healer you are, and it's not really a wound, and to love it as well. Look up your Chiron sign, it's really insightful, while you grab your Quantum Quattro and you grab your Yarrow essential oil as well. So there is a lot happening this month. Of course, keep following me on all the other social media outlets. Remember, the Crystal Confab will be talking about different crystals. Fellowship in Essential Oils is where we go deep into all your essential oils, and my newsletter, my Instagram, and my Facebook is where we'll kind of bit by bit by bit throughout the month work out how to navigate these things. As I said, some of the more like the dwarf planets like Salacia and Eris, some of the asteroids like Lilith and Persephone, you may not notice them as much. And so if you're not really noticing them, don't worry about those crystals kind of thing. Really just lean into those ones that are really coming up for you in that way. So those are the lessons we can expect for this month. I'll be back next month if we all make it through these lessons of July, and I'll tell you what's happening then. Until then, thanks for taking some time to watch this video. Let me know your thoughts below. Blessed be.